Hello. This is a quick overview of how to use GanttProject. This is what GanttProject looks like once you download and start it up. I'm on a Mac system, so some of my icons may look a little bit different from what you might see on a Windows computer. All right, so let's get started. The first thing I always like to do is to save my work. Save my work. So save as. Let's call it my wedding. Okay. Let's set up our project. Properties. Let's give it a name. My wedding. Okay. You can set an organization, a link, a description as you desire. If you come to this tab, you can specify the dates that are weekends, whether you want work done on weekends or not. You can pick your holiday calendar rather, and several things. I'm going to start my project, let's say July 1st. That way we have a 6-month project potentially. Now, it's always good to start by creating roles that will be assigned to resources. So the first role here, we can say bride, the groom. Another role could be the wedding. Why is my W gone? Okay, wedding consultant. Okay. So that's setting up the project right there. All right. The next thing to do now is to create resources. So we've created roles. Now we'll create resources. Those resources will be assigned roles. After creating resources, we'll go ahead and start inputting our tasks or activities. To create resources, we simply need to click into the resource tab here. Then there will be two ways to create them. One is either right-clicking on this left work area, new resources. Another option is to click on the person icon here. So let's get started. Who knows? What's the name? Let's do Shirley. Input phone, mail, all those other information, but more importantly, you want to put the role. So Shirley is our bride. You can input a rate so that you can calculate cost per resource. You can also set days off. So if, let's say, you're working on an actual project at the company, the person has put in time off, vacation, things like that. You can add that here so that activities for those users will not be reflected on the days they are off. Of course, you can create other custom properties. I'm going to create 3 roles. Let's do Pete for our groom. Finally, we do our wedding consultant. Let's call her Maggie. So I like to do my names this way with the role there, wedding consultant, especially if I'm not dealing with a real life situation, because what's going to happen is when I'm assigning this resources to activities, if I'm not careful and don't remember who is Maggie, who is Shirley properly, then I might assign the wedding consultant as a resource to something that should be the bride. If you're in a real organization, you probably know these people, so you won't mix the persons up. Let's say that our wedding consultant is at $25 an hour, just to say. So now we have 3 resources, and we can get started inputting our activities. Now that we're ready to input our activities, hopefully you have your activities list maybe on an Excel, Google spreadsheet, text, notepad, anything, anywhere, even on a piece of paper. If you have it written down, you can just what's it called? You can just start putting it in here. It will even be a great idea to be bringing them in from a work breakdown structure. There are two ways, just like creating resources, there are two ways to create activities. The first one is on the left work area, you can right click, new task, or you can click on the clock. The difference between right clicking here and what we did for resources is because we've selected Gantt in the upper buttons here. If we had resources like we had before, you right click here, then it assumes you want to create a resource. But if you click Gantt, then it knows you the context is for tasks. So new task. Let's call our first task notify family. Notify your family that you're getting married. Let's call our next task create guest list. Okay, we are going to edit this. So what I just did is double click on the task and it brings up a bunch of properties about the task. I want this to start June 1st. Right? So June 1st, and we'll assume it's going to be a 3-day task. Each bride and groom will notify their families. They have 3 days to do that. Right? You can set the priorities here if you want. I'm going to leave it as what's it called, as no. Then what else? You can set an earliest begin time, right? There's no predecessor because this is the first task. Resources. You can add resources here. We're going to add both Shirley and the groom, Pete. All right. Again, if you have custom properties for your task, you can add it. Because we said it's starting June 1st, you can see the start date got moved. The other thing here is create lists. Let's assume this takes a 7-day period. Again, this is going to, let's assume this starts on June 1st as well, similar to the other one. And we have all the other things there. Again, it allows you to change the color, do some, various things that you need to do. It's not a milestone. If this was a milestone task, then we'll have selected this. The predecessor, we will assume, of course, in real life, you could start creating your guest list before you even tell your family, but we could, just for practice purposes, we're going to say it's dependent on notifying your family. Resources, Shirley, Pete. This is a good place, like if you had bride's parents, groom's parents, things like that. Those are people that will help you to build up your guest list. Now you see that the dependency gets reflected here as well. Then you can go on and create, multiple, more and more activities based on your work breakdown structure. One couple of things I really want to quickly highlight here is for my project, I'm going to have a vendors task, which is like a bucket for a bunch of other tasks. When you're getting married or when you're planning a wedding, you have to deal with vendors. You have to deal with the flower person, decorator, caterer, cake person, music, all of that. So under this task, I'm going to have flowers. I could go ahead and create another task for music, for caterer, and all that. But before I do that, because the flower task is a subtask of the vendor, I will indent this task under vendors. There are multiple ways to do that. Right click, indent. That's one way. Or you can use this icon here. Now that I've indented that task, all the subsequent tasks I create will also be indented. So new task, see how that gets indented. If I didn't indent it first, then I have to go in and indent them one by one. Let's say we have caterer, cake, music, and the rest. Now, under each of these subtasks, though, you will have various tasks. For music, for example, you will have maybe get list of DJs, right? And there's new DJ consulting. This is when you talk to the DJs and get a feel for whether they fit what you're looking into or what you're looking for. Then we can have select DJ. That's when you make your final selection. Now, I want this 3 tasks to be a sub of music. So I'm simply selecting all 3 of them. You click on one task and shift down, press the shift key, click on the third task. And what I'm going to do is indent all of them together. Okay? The other thing I want to do here is make an assumption that your select DJ happens only after DJ consulting. So I'm dragging this onto that task. Let's try that again. There you go. Of course, I could have just clicked on the task itself and go to the predecessor property and do the same thing. Also, I'm going to make this assumption here. There you go. Collect list of DJs. We're going to do a duration of, let's say, 2-3 days, because you're just going to use the internet, right? And just for conversation purposes, let's say we assign this to Pete. And DJ consulting, again, let's say this is going to take a 5-day task before he gets to talk with all the DJs and get a feel for the kind of music he's looking for at the wedding, stuff like that. And then select DJ, maybe that's just a day, 2 days, either way. Resources, so in this case, we're going to assume he's going to consult with Shirley, right? It's a wedding, one good part. So you do the same thing. Now I have this collapsible task here, and you do the same thing for cake, caterer, and every other task under that. So now I'm going to go ahead and just create more tasks, assign it to people, create dependencies. At this point, I've gone ahead, created more tasks, renamed some tasks, created dependencies, add durations, things like that to the project. And you can see how things are structured. On the left-hand side, you have all the tasks you entered. These columns here, you have the name column, the begin date, and the end date column. You could actually expand that and see manage columns. If you right click, and you can determine or decide what you want to see in the view. Let's say we wanted to see duration instead of end date. Let's get rid of end date. Let's try that again. Columns. duration again. You want to see duration, show selected, and end date, type selected. Okay, good. So now we hit the end date, and we are showing the duration. Of course, the more columns you have there, the more clustered it will be. So the less column, the better. Now, you have your setup like this. I don't have all the tasks that's needed. This is just a sample set of tasks. The other thing that you can do here is you can view your network diagram. To do that, you come to View. This PERT chart is unselected initially. If you select it, you see there's a third button here, and that gives you a view of how your tasks are linked together and the various dependencies. I do not have all the tasks necessary for this project, so there looks like there are gaps, which, because it's still a project in progress, that makes sense. But you can also see resource allocation here. Shirley is showing red because she's overallocated already, and then Betty as well, right? So this gives you a view into how overallocated your resources are, and you can go in based on what you see here, make those modifications that you need. Going back to the Gantt, yeah, so this just shows you what your project looks like, and that's as much as it is, or as much as you need with the Gantt project. You could export the task into a comma separated a CSV file, which you could open in Excel. You could also import, but I've not been able to get that successfully done. Maybe it's a version thing, but I know it's possible to do all your data entry in like Excel or Google spreadsheet and then import it into GanttProject. All right, that's it with GanttProject. The next thing you need to do is simply, of course, always save. Oops. Save as. Okay, deleting. And then just submit the .gan file in your LMS. Thank you.